lot of people I'm seeing right now buying stock into LSU. That is totally fine, but let's have a serious conversation. LSU going into 2025 feels like it has to be a must-win year for Brian Kelly. And you know what? I'm not ready to go ahead and buy into the Bayou Boogie juice just yet. I have been burnt by this stuff. I've woken up with a really bad hangover after believing that this was the year for the Bayou Bengals. So I'm not ready to go ahead and drink that Kool-Aid. What I will say is I do believe that Garrett Nussmeier is the best returning quarterback in the SEC for 2025. My top 10 quarterback ratings, he is number 2 in college football. And if you tell me based off what I saw last season can continue to grow, he may end up being the best quarterback in college football for 2025. And you know what? Here's the bottom line. I understand that there are going to be a lot of people that doubt Garrett Nussmeier, and you have your reasons too. But remember that this is a kid that when people thought was a terrible quarterback, still threw for over 4,000 yards and finished with 31 total touchdowns. He was the offense. Whether or not you want to admit that last year LSU failed to achieve expectations, losing to Alabama in sporadic fashion, how terrible the defense was, he was the offense. They were 115th in rushing. They were 114th in yards per attempt. They were 121st in rushing touchdowns. They had nobody outside of Caden Durham. And if they couldn't take that next step forward, well, then unfortunately, they were forced to throw. Garrett Nussmeier averaged 40 pass attempts per game. So he was literally winning games and losing games on his own. And I understand there's going to be a lot of people that want to point out how many interceptions he threw. He had 12. I get that. Here's my counter argument. Garrett Nussmeier had 525 pass attempts last year. That was the second most in college football. That was also the most in the SEC. Can anybody tell me who was number 2? I'll save you the trouble. It was Carson Beck. How about number 3? It was Quinn Ewers. Both of them had less than 80 pass attempts, and they still had the same amount of interceptions. So when you're expected to throw it 40 times a game, don't you think that eventually a defensive back is going to pick up on some of your throws, some of your soliloquies, and then be able to go ahead and turn it back the other way? And still 12 interceptions on 80 more pass attempts when Carson Beck and Quinn Ewers had the exact same. I think you got to realize there's going to be more margin for error when you have to throw it more. Here's the good news. It's year 2 of Joe Sloan's system. It's year 2 for him calling the shots. And Garrett Nussmeier has even said, I know that the system was going to be a little bit different than what Mike Denbrock ran, but I do believe that there are some similarities. Well, now there's nothing left to show. Now you expect Caden Durham to be better. You expect the blocking to be better. You expect the wide receivers to be better because everyone has a clear understanding about what works for Sloan and what changed for Denbrock. I actually think that right now, when you look at what Garrett Nussmeier can be, the untapped potential is real. It is. And I have fallen for this trap 2 years in a row. And I won't do it a third time. Year 2 of the LSU quarterback. So 2019, I remember going into the year and saying Tua Tagovailoa was the best quarterback in college football. Tua Tagovailoa was going to be better than Joe Burrow. And Joe Burrow proceeded to end up having the greatest year in college football history for my money when it comes to a quarterback, won the Heisman Trophy, led LSU to a national championship. Last year, or 2 years ago, I said that Jackson Dart was going to be the best quarterback in the SEC. And Jayden Daniels had a good first year. Beat Alabama, got to 10 wins. But I said that it was going to be Jackson Dart. And then Jayden Daniels proceeds to have the greatest year for the SEC, becomes the 5th quarterback all time to have over 1,000 rushing yards and 3,000 passing yards. Number 1 scoring offense in the country, number 1 passing offense in the country, ends up winning the Heisman Trophy. So I'm not falling for the bait when it comes to Garrett Nussmeier in year 2. A dude that threw for over 4,000 yards and is the only quarterback returning in college football to throw for the 4K marker. It's another year understanding the offense. And I think that the other thing that's really important is that he's going to get better. Every single time that you do anything in life, you get better with more repetitions. I get better doing this live show. You get better commenting. You get better when it comes to doing things as a chore with your significant other. You do better things at work. So I think that when you look right now at what Garrett Nussmeier can be, with over 1,000 snaps as QB1, he's been in every situation. Nothing is going to be unfazable for him. He's going to know what it's like to throw on 3rd down with an all-out blitz coming his way. He knows what it's like to play on the road in a hostile environment with 100,000 screaming fans begging you to make a mistake. He knows what it's like to have to lead a game-winning drive because if he's done it before. Did it against Ole Miss. 4th and 5. They call verts. They say, you know what? Find Aaron Anderson. Go ahead and get the win. Take us to overtime, connect with Kyron Lacy, game on over, look at us, a top 10 victory. He has been in every situation. And there's going to be a lot of quarterbacks in the SEC that haven't been there. Alabama's got a new starting quarterback. Jackson Dart's off to the NFL. What do we make of Lenore Sellers and DJ Lagway going into year 2? How about Georgia? We don't know who's going to be the starter. Is it going to be Gunnar Stockton? Is it going to be Pelusi? What do we make of other teams like Kentucky? What about Texas A&M? Marcel Reed, can he live up to expectations? I am very high on John Mateer. I think that he is going to be a stud passer in 2025. But do I think that he is ready to go ahead and have that same type of persona as a guy like Garrett Nussmeier? What about Nico? You're going to ask Nico to step on up without a solid run game or an unknown run game? I know what to expect from Garrett Nussmeier. I've seen it. And in a down year to most people, I believe that we're going to see even better results. The best part is he's going to have, I think, a better supporting cast as well. People think that last year, 2 great wide receivers, Kyron Lacy, CJ Daniels, good job. I think this year is even better. You brought in Barian Brown from Kentucky. I think he is a game changer. Go back and remember that game against Ole Miss. Big time play on 4th down. The Wildcats do not win a conference game without Barian Brown, and now he goes down to Baton Rouge. You still have Xavier Thomas, who I think is going to take another step forward. Aaron Anderson didn't lead this offseason. You're going to have a healthy Chris Hilton. How about Nick Anderson? When he was at Oklahoma, year 1, touchdown machine, superstar, did everything that you wanted in terms of a wide receiver 1, just was injured last year. What if he's fully healthy? That's a mismatch nightmare inside the red zone. And I think you're going to have a better run game. You're going to be able, I think, trust what Caden Durham can be, and I think you're going to be able to trust the backups. There's a really good shot for LSU's offense to be as dominant as it was in 2023, where it's number 1 in passing, number 1 in scoring, number 1 in red zone efficiency, as long as they can run the football. And as long as they have that secondary punch, we're going to see, I think, a better Garrett Nussmeier, to where I don't think 5,000 yards is off the table. I don't think 40 touchdowns is off the table. We just watched as Joe Burrow did it from 2018 to 2019. And then 2 years later, Jayden Daniels from 2022 to 2023. Who's to say that we can't see that same growth and development from Nussmeier going into 2025? And then eventually he ends up leading his team to a 10-win season. They punch their ticket to Atlanta, and then they make the college football playoff. I'm not going to jump that far. I think it's far-fetched to jump that far right now with LSU, because if we've watched them in years past win a big-time game and then lose a matchup that they shouldn't. Last year, get a victory over Ole Miss, prove that they're trending in the right direction, and then back-to-back heinous losses to Alabama and Florida that knocked them out of the college football playoff conversation altogether. It's more than just Nussmeier. My final thought on this, and I want to move on, is think about the quarterbacks that have won the national title. You need experience to go to the postseason. I don't think that that's wrong to say. And then you look last year what Quinn Ewers was able to do and what Howard was able to do. You also can throw in guys like Dylan Gabriel, what he was able to do. There's a reason why they were viewed as standouts. They had multiple years of starting experience underneath their belt. But does always the best quarterback in college football win the national championship? Like, if you honestly look back, name the last time outside of probably Joe Burrow in 2019 that the best quarterback in college football that year won it all. You can make a case for maybe Trevor Lawrence. You can make a case for maybe Mac Jones in 2020. But honestly, it's usually a full team thing. It's a production thing. It is everyone understanding their assignments. It's the run game, giving you a secondary punch. It's the run defense, making sure that you're not giving up 5 yards of play. It's your secondary, creating turnovers and giving the ball back to the offense in positive territory. It's your play calling. It's your offensive line, protecting your quarterback. It's having that other resource that gets you to that next level. And so Garrett Nussmeier may end up being the best quarterback in college football next year, and still LSU finds itself going to the Liberty Bowl or going to the Texas Bowl or missing out on the college football playoff altogether, and Brian Kelly's seat is warming up even more. We could see that happen because it's a team sport. And in the SEC, you and I know this as well as anybody else, it's won in the trenches. LSU last year had a stellar offensive line. They had a terrible defensive line. This year, they have a better defensive line underneath Blake Baker going into year 2 of the defense. But what about the offensive line? How well do you feel about replacing guys like Will Campbell, Emory Jones, Miles Frazier, Garrett Dellinger? How do you feel about those guys all now hitting the open market and going to the NFL? Do you think that Josh Thompson's going to be good enough to put you in a prime position to where your offense is going to be humming when it comes to pass protection? When the game tips off, the NBA action is just beginning on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because FanDuel is your home for NBA live betting. Even if you miss the first few minutes of a game or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can make your picks from the first whistle until the final buzzer. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. However you want to play, now is the perfect time to join. New FanDuel customers get started with $150 in bonus bets with your first $5 bet win. Just visit FanDuel.com/SECU to join today. That's FanDuel.com/SECU for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Disclaimer: must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, and 18 plus in DC. First online real money wagers only. $5 first deposit is required. Bonus issues with non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. All right, back to the show. Garrett Nussmeier, I think, is good enough to be the guy to lead you to a college football playoff. And if I'm just going simply based off of LSU quarterback play, I think that LSU could be in the playoff. They really could. They could be a #1 seed. They could be hosting a game down in Death Valley. They may end up being the team that wins it all and go to Miami. And the goals are still there, and I do believe that it's possible. But I look at it from a Garrett Nussmeier standpoint. Only Garrett Nussmeier, nothing else. He can do it. He can be a guy that takes you to your end goal. The rest of LSU has got to set up on up. So if you want to go ahead and drink the Kool-Aid of what is Bayou Bengal culture, I'm totally cool with that, but I'm not ready to jump on that. I am ready to say that when you look right now at where LSU is, maybe not. When I look at what Garrett Nussmeier is, absolutely can.